Yeah, people love that. Absolutely love that. What incredible memories that brings back. Am I light enough? I don't mean in weight. I've actually got a little bit of a paunch. Hey, let me know in the chat. I haven't got a lot of time for rambling. I'll explain that in a minute. But let me know in the chat. Just a 1 or a 0. 1 is a affirmative and a 0 is in the negatory. Does your missus like your paunch? If you've got one, does she like tap it and go, and you're like, I'm getting too fat. And she's like, nah, duck, duck, duck. Let me know about that. I just need to clarify some things. I just want to say some thanks to Livy, who's been on the phone for 11 months, been longer than that. Hoyt to that, Livy. And of course, the main host of the channel, Picard, who's been on the phone for 53 months. So appreciated. It's easy being a co-host, but to be the main man is tricky stuff. So I don't know how he pulls it off. I really don't. I'll get the grift out of the way. At the top of the YouTube chat, you've got Buy Me a Coffee, which is probably definitely the best one to use. You also get a 30-second video reply that I'll make especially for you. It's not like an automated thank you for giving a donation. But also I get the biggest cut. They take something like 6%, which is, not a lot. Entropy is about the same as well. That's also at the top of the YouTube chat. Bottom of the YouTube chat, super chat, bosh, it goes straight on the screen. But I also put the other donations on the screen, so you get your moment of glory. All donations appreciated. And that's it. If you can afford it and you want to, and you get value from these streams, they're appreciated. If you can't afford it, don't. That makes sense, doesn't it? Anyway, no time for messing around, because this bastard, Picard, has already told me he's got to run off in an hour. An hour, he said. Now, I'm here
till 7. I'm all right till 7. Yeah. Hour and 20 minutes. You're all right.
Okay, it might be about that long, actually, this stream. So I think I might have welcome, Packer. Always a privilege and a pleasure to have you here. I'm just seeing about the paunch. There's some paunches, some not so paunch. Some people, it would appear, just don't want to talk about paunches. Not quite sure what Barrett's saying. A lot of feedback on the conversation I had with Tim Davis. I don't really want to talk about it without him here, because it's kind of not fair. Well, it isn't fair, because it's like I've got a podium without him having a right to reply at the same time. But there is something interesting that when I was asking him about do you know who Mark Collette is, and just getting a no from that. And I don't expect everyone to know the history of the right. I mean, where does that go back? Where does that start? How much should you know? I just think you should have a general understanding of a discourse. And someone on Twitter was talking to me earlier, and I said about that, I said, whether you like it or not, if you're talking about certain subjects, you are part of a larger thing. That's what a discourse is. That's what stops a discourse from just being a meaningless rant. And the idea that this is all happening now, the battle for Cable Street, Mosley's battle for Cable Street was 1936. It was a protest against immigration, where the immigrants stopped it from happening. Stories of boiling oil out of windows and things, and all sorts of stuff. Enoch Powell's famous so-called Rivers of Blood speech. He never says that. He quotes a Roman emperor, I can't remember who it was, who talked about a river in Rome, the Tiber maybe. Correct me in the chat, I'm sure you will. Frothing over with blood. But I think Powell called it the Birmingham speech, or that's what it was officially known as. But that was 1968. When did these things start? I'll tell you what, read Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Essays on the Origin of Languages, and you'll see how the concept of origins itself is you know, it will blow your mind. I really suggest reading that, the essay, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Essay on the Origin of Languages. And when you've read that, read Jacques Derrida reading Rousseau's Essay on the Origin of Languages. You'll learn so much, and it's such a party in the mind. If you're into intellectual pursuits around language, and language is the system of signs that we've got that we communicate ideas with. We haven't got any others. There literally isn't any others. And when people say, well, fighting's a language. Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, follows the same rules. You know, all graphemes or phonemes, they follow the same rules of the sign, the signifier, the signified. Anyway, me talking about not having time, Packer's there looking at his watch saying, I've only got an hour and I'm already on to the system of signs. We can go further than that, though. We can talk about the gram, which is a unit of language even smaller than the sign. Yeah, I've got some kind of sensual problem with linguistics. But if you're interested in linguistics, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Essay on the Origin of Linguistics. Someone else called me out as well. When you're in an argument and someone says, this is just semantics now. Semantics comes from the ancient Greek word sema, which means sign. And all arguments, all debates, all conversations are just semantic. It's a slippery technique to say this is just semantic now, because conversation is always already semantic, because semantic is about words and meaning. You know, it's like going swimming and someone saying, "No, this is just about swimming now." Here we go. Yeah, it was when we arrived. Anyway, thankfully I haven't cleared that up. Before we get into Gary Stevenson, so I might have confused a few of you with the thumbnail. It says live reaction, so I haven't seen the video. I've watched a couple of little bits of it just to make sure it's worth doing a reaction to. It's not live. I'm going to react to it live, but I just want to show you something interesting. I was talking to someone, I think on X as well, Twitter X. Is that ever going to change? Will it? I mean, I try and call it X. It seems to make sense. It's not called Twitter anymore. But I was talking about the artificial elevation of Gary Stevenson. You know, these people are useful for the globalist elites because they have no solutions. They have no solutions. They imply communism, of course. But there's no real solutions. But it allows working people to go, yeah, we got a hero. Yeah, he's fighting for us. Yeah, and there's like I said, he's a fame-hungry narcissist. But for the audience, it gives them something to focus on and gives them a little bit of hope. But it's a hope that kills you. You know. So the media, which we know are state-controlled leftists, they've got reason to artificially elevate not only minorities, not only, you know, the LGBT. You know, look at literature and the LGBT crew. They dominate in the best-selling lists. What? Because of the quality of the work? Sometimes, but it does seem disproportionate. The artificial elevation of representation in adverts coming up to Christmas that does not reflect the actual conditions of existence in the country. We know all this sort of thing. So I was talking to someone about Gary Stevenson's artificial elevation, like he's everywhere. He's been everywhere over the last year. You know, get him on there, get him on there, get him on there. This will keep him quiet. You know, it's like a little bit of opium. You know, this will shut him up for a while. You know, this is a bloke. He's telling the truth. Although there's not much there, you know, he's got this little trick where there's grains of truth, which he sells you as a flower. There's seeds of truth, which he sells you as a tree. And I said, in this conversation, I said there's a writer called Gabriel Krauss, who about 8 years ago wrote his first novel. And it's called something like Who We Was, or something like that. It's deliberately grammatically incorrect, because his struggle is that not only did he live in the ghetto, but he was also at university doing an English major. And it was like, oh, we're dealing drugs, we're fighting, it's gangs, but I'm also reading at university. Oh, what can I do? And it's written in London slang, like like Train Spotting is written in Scottish slang. I don't like it, but it's only subjective. Some people love it. But I'm going to show you an image. When I went to Amazon, I thought, I wonder how he's getting on. I wonder how that fella's getting on. Oh, Gabriel Kraus. See if he's written anything else since then. When someone is artificially elevated, they tend to be fraudulent. Anyway, have a look at this. I get to his Amazon page. I've seen that, Andy. Thanks a lot, mate. I won't miss that. And anyone else who donates, I don't miss them. Let's have a look at this. So this is from my Twitter. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I might be able to make the page a bit bigger. So there you go. Can you see that, people? So there's Gabriel Kraus's book, Who They Was, right? There. And if you go down, customers who viewed this item also viewed Gary Stevenson, the trading gamer. I mean, you can't make this up. You can't, if you bought into Gabriel Kraus's, and I'm not knocking him as a writer because some people like him. And I respect people writing books. But there was an artificial elevation, and people who saw that also, they were sold that dummy, and then they were sold the Gary Stevenson dummy. I just thought that was worth having a look at. There's another thing I just want to quickly show you that's not relevant to this, but very, very funny. I got this from Sugar Tits. So I'm going to put this up on my Paint Shop Pro edition 7 that I definitely paid for. I mean, in fairness, they should pay me for fucking using it. Excuse my French. So I don't know if you know, but Jamie Lee Curtis has gone viral because apparently one of her daughters is transsexual, okay? And she said, you wouldn't be able to tell which one of my daughters is trans, right? Have a look at this. And I'm not, this is no judgment. This is up to you to, she's put it out there. She's offered that challenge. Well, what do you reckon? Yeah, I'll make it a bit bigger. Do you reckon you could tell if you had to put a few quid on it? I mean, I'm going to guess. I'm going to say it's the one on the right. I think it's fair to say that's probably the one that's been through a transition. IR says that Stevie Wonder could tell. What else have we got here? Livy on the firm for 11 months. Nice one, Livy. Zeitgeist, 54 months. I think it's the record. Andy Mack drops in $4.99. No comment. None needed. Amazing. Oh, hang on. What else have we got here? Did I put that up? Yeah, I did. IR's been on the firm for 2 months. He's been on it longer than that. He just knows that I come and go sometimes. Much appreciated. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I haven't missed any more of those. Okay, so there's that, but there's something else added to it. I can't remember who said it, but keep that image in your mind that you just saw there. And someone said it was a scrub. Yeah, Dr. Smurf. He says, I didn't realise her daughter was Frances Foster. And when you look at it again, now with that additional information, I mean, the real question would have been raised machine says, do we have to? That's brilliant. Hello, Jedi. I didn't realise her daughter was. It tickled me. That tickled me. Nigel, Mr. Bontoft. Hello, sir. This Gary bloke is like a paid piper. Follow me, you plebby maybe. Yeah, I'll exchange that for lump and proletariat. If you follow me, Oh, where's it gone? Oh yeah, if you follow me, he's London School of Economics, like George Soros. Yeah, absolutely. I got a bit confused with what happened there. I think I'm either ignorant to the words you're using, or you got a bit of autocorrect that stitched you up a little bit there. So that's a bit weird. John B has been a member for 53 months. Nice one, John B. Machano Kuprashanata Tutu. So there we go. So without further ado, people, let me get that picture of Francis Foster off my screen. It's giving me memories of saving someone's life. Think about it. If I never done that, we wouldn't have to suffer that trigonometry nonsense. Talking about being artificially elevated. Right. So let's have a look at this interview. It's 11 minutes long. We'll go through it. Excuse me, people. I just want to get the buy me a coffee thing up on the screen so I can check it occasionally and see if anyone's donated over there, because I feel like if you're donating, you deserve to be acknowledged. Right, that has been done. So let's share screen. Maximize that. Entire screen. Bosh. Include sound. Share. So I can never remember what this other fella's called. Can anyone tell me? What's this BBC geezer? He's been there since the Jurassic period. But what's his name? It's Ian Marr or Ian Marr. You know, the scrub. Johnny Marr.
Johnny Marr. Andrew
Marr. Is that Andrew Marr?
Yeah.
Hello, Frog Scotch. Nice to see you. It is Andrew Marr. Okay. All right. So, people, like I say, I haven't seen all of this. I've watched probably about 2 minutes in total. Comrade Marr. Hello, Pizzle. Good to see you. Neil Christie says that. Right. Yeah, he's very much like that. If you don't know, people, I've already made a video about Gary Stevenson, and in a day it got 2.3 thousand views, which is insane for me. The live stream with Tim Davis, and look, Tim Davis is a good lad. He's on the right side of history. We disagree on some things. That's natural, normal, and we entered that stream as mates, and we came out of it as mates. It's a good thing to do. Hello, Mr. Benton. How are you, Squire? Good to see thee. Hello, Dottie. Barrett Zippo has got something to say about how he looks. Trans man or something. Tradesman. Up the tradesman's. That'll come out lovely in the end, didn't it? Nice. Right, what we doing? So here we go. Let's roll VT.
In the studio now. Welcome, Gary.
Right, can I just have a sound check on that? Could you hear that? He's got a bit about that, Winstoner. Nice to see you, Winstoner. Could you hear that there? Mousecat's dropped $9.99 on the phone. Bless you, Mousecat. Much appreciated. Some bird called Fiona Lally was on a channel. Another full fat commie being elevated. Now that's the 16-year-old votes require scooping up. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Starmer, I like to call him Starlin, but it only works when it's written. It doesn't. Anyway, Starmer, they've done their research. They would have polled and surveyed all the universities, and 16-year-old girls are going to vote mainly for the left. They will use clever marketing and propaganda to disenfranchise young males, so they're not voting. And it's just a way of getting more votes. I don't think I really needed to explain that, but that's certainly what's happening.
The students are going to be virtually marched down there, aren't they? I'd have thought.
Well, there you go. Oh, yeah. Probably buses turning up on campus. Yeah, without a doubt. Hamburger and fries, vegan versions, obviously, like a little bit of wet carpet stuck between two bits of gluten-free cardboard. I was also informed that Gary Stevenson is quite admired by Novara Media. And now Novara Media is an explicitly communist YouTube channel. So, you know, the shock. So anyway, let's crack on with it. Like I say, I haven't seen this, so this is off the cuff. Roll VT. Did you hear it? Did anyone tell me if we heard it? Hello, Fat. How are you, son?
I could hear it.
Yep, I see. No, I've seen the stuff about Corbyn. It's interesting. Andy popped in to say hello. He's lost his large bow and been living in a dark place. Andy, if you want to email me, if you want some support, whatever I can give, I can listen to. If you want to chat at all, just email me. You know my email address. Sorry to hear about that. That ain't interesting. Weird Freudian slip. I don't give a toss about that. What I mean is that ain't nice. So feel free to email me if you want, and we can arrange a little video chat. Sometimes it helps if you have someone outside of your family and friends, so to speak. I'm always there for people like that. Sorry to hear that, Andy. Really sorry. And I hope you get through it. Show people, can you show Andy a bit of love in the chat? Because that ain't nice. Right, here we go. We're gonna roll it.
Could you start by taking us right back to when you were, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, and you're in the East End looking out over the terraced house windows to the Canary Wharf?
Right, this is what this is going to be like, and people in the comments will, not in the chat, but in the comments will say, you keep interrupting it. I get that on my Dragon's Den reaction videos. It's like, what? I keep interrupting on a reaction video. Just go and watch the original. It's such a weird comment. Anyway, let's just look at his face there. He loves this because he knows that LBC are on side. He knows they're on side. At this point, at least, it might go elsewhere, but he loves it when old Marzipan says to him, tell us about your working class roots, you know, tell that, because that's what he's been asked. Tell us your story. Give us your marketing shtick, your terrace house. He said your terrace house, right? And I've got something to show you about that in a bit. But look at that bloke's face. That's like someone who's just been tapped on the back by his father and said, "You're a good lad. You're a good lad." You know, it's clear as day. So let's just watch that again and see how he responds, because he's gone from that, which is quite sort of frightened, to, you know, give us your shtick, sell yourself before we get into the numbers.
And Gary is with me in the studio now. Welcome, Gary. Can you start by taking us right back to when you were, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, and you're in the East End looking out over the
down the old East End, I'm a Barra boy. You know, these classic tropes that the English love. Where, you know, tell us when you were looking out the window over the Roman road, down the old Ford Road. You know, it's quite that. Why do we need to know this? Do they do this with other economists who come on here? Yeah, you know, can you imagine just some geezer coming up like the president of El Salvador or something? Take us back to when you were 8 years old and you were living in a slum in El Salvador and MS-13 were massacring your parents. No, they don't. But this is part of the game. This is part of, there you go, Pizzle. My old man's a dustman. He wears a dustman's hat. Anyway, so now we're going to get the sob story. Well, not the sob story, but the marketing, the shtick.
Terrace house windows to the Canary Wharf, blinking in the distance.
Yeah, of course. I grew up in Ilford, East London.
That scratching of his arm he done there, any repetitive movement is self-comforting. That's why mothers rock prams. You can argue which came first. Go on, Packer.
Can I just interject here? I'm from Ilford. I grew up in Ilford.
Yep. And there's some beautiful terrace houses.
I'm absolutely as cockney as he is, aren't I?
There's absolutely, yeah, exactly. But there's some beautiful terrace houses in Ilford. You know, by omission, he tries to make out that it was like, you know, the hood, and I can assure you it wasn't.
Once upon a time, Ilford was a lovely place.
Well, I'm going to show you some places in a minute in Ilford. but yeah, any repetitive movement is self-comforting. I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack there because he's being interviewed on LBC, so that is not necessarily deception.
East London, a little terraced house with my family, crowded little house.
East London, don't you mean West Essex? But nonetheless.
You know, playing football on the streets, going to the street. And when
jumpers as goalposts, you know how it was.
I was a kid, that's when the Canary Wharf skyscrapers first went up. So we were very poor growing up, but I was always very good at maths. So
you had to be very poor. You've got to get that in because it's not relevant. John Palmer's comment, this idiot.
I think you just kind of assume if you're good at maths, you're going to go work in those skyscrapers one day. So I worked pretty hard. I had a few ups and downs, got very good grades.
That is a peculiar comment to me. I think you just assume if you're good at maths, you're going to work in those skyscrapers. My best mate at school was exceptional at maths, and he knew that he'd be working on construction sites. No one at my school thought they were going to work in skyscrapers. It wasn't even, you'd be working for your old man, like digging holes.
Maths. Managed to go to the London School of Economics, a very fancy economics uni in London. I entered a card game. I won a card game, which is where the title of the book, The Trading Game, comes from. So in 2005.
Okay, so he won a competition. Okay. Mr. Fused, very kind of you. Absolutely. Drops a Lady Godiva and he says, yes, Chris, what a treat, mate. Always cheer me up, fella. Hope you and the missus are good night. All the scrubs, glad it's the weekend. Me too. Hi to that, Mr. Fused. Thank you very much. Right. Let's just do that trading game thing again.
Ups and downs, got very good grades at maths. Managed to go to the London School of Economics.
So he got into the LSE. I mean, I don't know anyone who got into the LSE from where I come from. In my town, there was like about 10 people who went on to university and art schools and colleges. I mean, polytechnics, which are essentially nothing. Just for people who couldn't get into uni. But he managed to get into the LSE. How do you fucking afford that? How do you afford to live in London and pay to go to the LSE? Did he get a scholarship? Maybe. I'm not digging him out. Well done. I admire that, but it is a sudden clunk in his story about being very poor. Because being very poor has got more, doesn't only involve not having money, it involves not having food. It involves not getting a lot of attention from your parents because they're always fucking working. It involves a lot more dysfunction than just, I was very poor. And yet stable enough to apply, get the grades and get into the London School of Economics, a prestigious university for economics, globally recognized.
Fancy economics uni in London. I entered a card game. I won a card.
Well, we have to have a look at that little bit of body language there. I'll pause it if I can.
Economics, a very fancy economics uni in London.
Yeah. I mean, again, humans don't do things by accident. He has chosen. So there's a bit of eye block in there. That's a certain amount of resentment that he has to admit this. That is him responding to all the people he knows are suddenly thinking, hang on, how did you go from A to B there? You've just said this, but you suddenly got there. Look at it. Look at the aggression. Look at the anger. And that was when he said a fancy university in London. Okay.
I entered a card game. I won a card game, which is where the title of the book, The Trading Game, comes from. So in 2005, I won this card game competition for Citibank called The Trading Game. And that's how I got my job as the youngest trader in the city, starting in the beginning of 2008.
And it was a really, really strange and alien world when you walked into it. Quite scary. Some fairly scary people all around you.
Yeah, a lot of...
Amazing that old Marzipan put words into his mouth. I mean, that's not a question. That's a premise. That's the hypothesis. He didn't say, what was it like? That would be an honest interview. So what was it like going from your working class roots you don't stop banging on about and ending up in the LSE. No, he feeds him the fucking answer. It's just absurd.
Which is where the title of the book, The Trading Game, comes from.
Listen carefully to him feeding him the answer. And what, I haven't seen this, my guess, I could be wrong, obviously, my guess is that old Stevenson here will reply pretty much saying the same thing back to him using different words.
So in 2005, I won this card game competition for Citibank called The Trading Game. And that's how I got my job as the youngest trader in the city, starting in the beginning of 2008.
And it was a really, really strange and alien world when you walked into it. Quite scary. Some fairly scary people all around you.
Yeah, look.
I mean, there you go. And that's not a question. It begins like this. And it was a really scary environment. Lots of scary people around you. He set him up. It's incredible. This isn't a critical debate. This is marketing. The pair of them are marketing. Now, who knows? It's so transparent that old Marzipan might change tack at some point. But so far, they're both banging the same drum.
Of big people, for some reason, I'm not the biggest guy. A lot of big guys. There's this kind of myth of the sort of Cockney wide boy trader.
Yeah, you perpetrate it.
Which some people might think I fit, but in reality,
no, they don't think you fit. They listen to you say it, and he has just repeated what Marzipan just said to him. By the way,
nowadays, and even back then in the 2000s, it was a lot of rich guys from rich families, basically. A lot of people sort of boarding school.
Boo! Eat the rich.
Private school.
You went to a grammar school.
And it wasn't the most polite place to work. At one point, a guy...
Yeah, it wasn't polite. So that's just maintaining Mars's... it was scary. There were scary people there. Okay, oh, you poor thing.
Barked at me like a dog and growled at me.
Oh, you poor working class kid. You couldn't deal with all of that. That must have been terrible.
Like a wolf because he thought I got him in trouble for drinking too much. Let's say it was a very testosterone-filled environment.
These are great stories from university. Can you tell us that one again? the one where a bloke barked at you. I mean, it's just fantastic content.
And in this testosterone...
So that was it. Marzipan give him the answer and he'd give it back to him using different words. Wow.
Fueled environment, you do very, very well. You make a lot of money for the bank and for yourself. And it goes on and on and on. And it's a time when the British economy, like many economies around the world, pretty much flat on its back. Yeah. People really, really scared. Homelessness beginning to spread again.
If you listen to the media, since mass media began, the economy has always been flat on its back. That's just what they tell you. They're always scaring you about the economy. Do you know why? Because they want you to work more. Why do they want you to work more? Because then you pay more taxes.
Sense that the world financial system isn't working. And the real reason you're here...
yeah, this will be interesting. I'm very interested to see Gary's body language on the back of the real reason you're here. This will be good.
And a real sense that the world financial system isn't working. And the real reason you're here is for me to ask you how different things are today.
Well, I think it's amazing. So I worked in the aftermath of the 2008 crisis. I started working just before the 2008 crisis started. And I was super young. I was 21. And it was crazy because the specific desk that I...
Super is a very strange modifier to put on young because he's already said how old he was. And so super doesn't function as a modifier to young there. It stands alone. He was super. That's what he's saying. He was super and young. It's an unconscious trick. I don't think he's worked on that, but we do things like that. We all do things like that. But in this context, it's a very notable tell.
Worked on in Citibank in Canary Wharf, started to make a ton of money during 2008. And obviously this is when the global economy is collapsing. A lot of my friends from university were losing their jobs. But the guys I was working with were making tons and tons of money. And I was 21 and I was kind of desperately trying.
A lot of my mates at uni were losing their jobs. What? No one I went to uni with had jobs, but nonetheless, they were at uni.
To figure out what was happening. But I think what is more interesting than the crash itself is how weak the recovery was afterwards. And everybody thought after 2008 that we were going to have this massive economic recovery.
Yeah.
And when COVID was happening, I don't know, it's easy to forget this now, but
A massive jump from the crash in 2008 to COVID. I mean, you know, that's a lifetime of economic theory in between the two. But it allows him to get to the position where he's more comfortable speaking.
when COVID was happening, do you remember the
Because we're actually talking about 10 years there where he was happily just raking in tons of money.
roaring 20s?
I do.
Do you remember the media saying we're going to have a roaring 20s because of pent-up demand? You remember pent-up
it's going
demand?
to be fantastic.
So for me, sitting and watching COVID, I actually stopped trading for a long time. But when COVID happened and I heard the economists and people on the news saying there's going to be a roaring 20s, all this pent-up demand, I got my laptop out and I started trading again because what I saw
was an opportunity to make loads of money, and I took it, and I haven't got a problem with that, and it's certainly a contradiction to the rest of his shtick.
was basically exactly the same thing happening again, which was economic crisis being dealt with in such a way that the government pumps a ton of money in, nearly bankrupts itself. None of that money stays with ordinary people.
Now, this is really interesting. None of that money. So I assume because it's very lax on detail, this whole, I mean, it doesn't even sound like he's talking about economics. He's still playing his fucking card game as far as I can work out. But none of that money stayed with normal people. Let me tell you something. During COVID, my e-commerce business went through the roof. Most e-commerce businesses done really, really well because the government was handing out money. I was offered a loan from a bank at very, very generous interest rates, which I absolutely jumped on, that I had about 10 years to pay off, and I'm still paying it off now. You know, some days we were doing $4,000 a day. Now, if I tell you today, a good day now is about 700. So am I not a normal person? You know, that money ended up with me, and a fair percentage of it, you know, it got invested. He's got a very dark and what's the word I'm looking for? Condescending view of the working classes. You know, this idea that all that money went to the working classes, but they're stupid, so they didn't know what to do with it. Well, that's not true. Retail investing has gone up through the roof since just before COVID. Retail investing is the likes of you and me, not institutional hedge funds, essentially. But according to this fella, working class people haven't got the nous for that. They can't work that out. They can't go on the internet and learn.
Ends up getting accumulated by the rich. The rich get richer and richer and richer, and so ordinary people suffer.
We come back to the quote I started with. Why does that happen? Try to explain to people why.
Right, I'm going to guess that this will be nothing now because he is so lax on detail. So why? It's a fair question. So now actually explain it to us, because one of the problems I've got with this fella is he on many of the shows I've seen him on, he'll always say the economy is going to crash again. It won't affect me because I'll be betting on it and I'll make millions. Why don't you make videos explaining how to do that? Why don't you tell people how you're actually doing that? George Soros betted on the UK economy crashing and pretty much crashed it through doing so. Make those videos, because on his channel, he's got videos where he says things like how to get rich. Go and watch it. He doesn't tell you how to get rich. If you want to know, read Felix Ennis's book, also called How to Get Rich. There's other things on it like how to make money out of trading. He doesn't tell you. If he really wanted to help out working class people, if he's so sure that he's going to be able to bet on the economy failing and make millions, just explain it. Just explain. You know, we're not stupid. We're not stupid. I've got 2 degrees. I had a master's degree at 23. Just tell me what is the process. That is glaringly absent from all of his content and his spiel.
The money always ends up with the rich.
The best example is COVID. All right? So do you know what the total government deficit is since the beginning of COVID?
Probably about 4 trillion.
About 100 billion or something.
A trillion. It's £1 trillion, which is £20,000 for every adult in the country. It's an unbelievably enormous number. Really, nothing economically matters except for that number because of the enormous scale of that number. The
number's big, so it matters. Does anyone know what that means? It's a big number, so nothing matters apart from that number. I'm not learning anything from this, and I don't know it. I'm not sitting here pretending I know it. I'm wanting him to tell me, but he's not. There's nothing here.
At the beginning of COVID, the government was going to pump maybe not $1 trillion, maybe $500 billion into the economy. If you are going,
that would likely be quantitative easing, which is where you just print more money. The problem with quantitative easing, of course, is you print more money, the value of the money goes down because there's more of it in circulation. It's its own contradiction. Look up quantitative easing if you want to know more about pumping money into the economy.
Going to pump £500 billion from the government debt into the economy. You have to ask who is going to end up with that money, who is going to accumulate that money. And the most amazing thing happened during COVID, which was that nobody asked. So I did the analysis, right? Government pumps this money in. Where does it go? Furloughed workers. Do furloughed workers get richer? No, because they just have to pay. They're not getting their wages anymore, right? They pay their bills. They pay their mortgage. It goes to the owners of that.
There you go. It went to the workers, but they weren't clever enough to do anything about it. And I actually agree with him that they didn't know what to do with all those bounce back loans and with all those handouts. But why doesn't he tell them? Why doesn't he tell us? He's got a big platform. It's something like I think he's got like 1 million subscribers. If someone in the chat wants to correct me on that or confirm that, tell us about it. Don't just keep telling us you're going to get rich. Tell us how we can do it.
Houses, the owners of the companies, rich people.
Which are the banks, ultimately.
Well, ultimately, it's rich people. And what do rich people do with the money during COVID? Nothing, because they can't spend it. What you saw during COVID.
What kind of ridiculous... What, you can't spend money during COVID? Well, how comes my business was doing sometimes $4,000 a day? The internet didn't shut down. Couriers didn't stop delivering. Amazon didn't close during COVID. It went through the roof. Oh, no, rich people, they could. What did they do with their money during COVID? Nothing, because they couldn't spend it. What absolute ridiculous. Not only is he wrong, he's lying, because he knows that's not true.
It was basically the greatest money laundering trick of all time. £1 trillion was pumped from the government through the poor to the rich.
Right, and I will agree with him that government, the government is meant to protect its people, but one of the main things it does very efficiently and frequently is put public money into private pockets. I agree with him on that, but that just sounds like another sort of segment of a bigger conversation that he's not going to give us. These are just, I mean, if you're kind of, if you're not very well versed in economics, have you learned anything from what he's said so far? Would you feel confident going into a boozer or a cafe with some friends, having a conversation and saying, well, it's like Gary Stevenson said, blah, 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 blah. Would you feel confident using anything he said? Because if you were questioned once, you'd be like, well, I don't know, because he didn't really explain much more from that, and much more about it from that. It's a show, it's a performance. He's fame hungry, working class hero trope.
Liquid money, hot money becomes a solid asset.
Yeah, well, rich people, if you give an ordinary person 10, 20...
It's incredible. Marzipan tries to actually talk economics, talking about hot money becoming assets, but that's too much. That's too much for Gary. So he just goes back to rich people, because working class people, uneducated working class people can engage with that. Yeah, eat the rich, bloody rich. You know, they're not so interested in people investing and turning hard cash into assets. And so that's of no value to Gary Stevenson, that conversation. Just mention the rich again, because people hate the rich, although most of them would like to be them.
Grand, they're going to spend it. If you give a rich person 20 grand, they're going
Oh, we can't miss that. Listen, again, look at the massive assumption. I would guess that more than half the people who watch this show are working class. Based on the time I've spent with you over the years, listen to this awful view he's got of you.
people, if you give an ordinary person 10, 20 grand, they're going to spend it. If you give a rich person 20 grand, they're going to buy 20 grand worth of assets. And
Wow. And like I said, retail investing is absolutely through the roof. If you give someone who knows how to invest in assets with 20 grand, they may well do that. Now, rich people, the exceptionally rich, the likes of your Eton boys and your Radley boys, they learn about investing at school. Anyone here went to a state comp? Were you ever told about your ISA? Were you ever told about investing? Was it even mentioned? Of course it wasn't, because the comprehensive school system wasn't designed to make clever people. It was designed to make workers. So yet again, there's a solution here. I mean, it's a glaring solution. Okay, Gary, you've just nailed it. If you give whatever a normal person is 20 grand, they're going to spend it or spunk up the wall on cocaine and whores. Not all bad. Don't do drugs and don't do whores. But if you give it to a wealthy person, they'll invest it. So you've identified a problem. Why don't you make some videos telling those normal people how to invest in assets, like I have over the last couple of years, and have had many emails thanking me. This isn't me patting my own back. This just shows how simple it is to tell people how to invest. And it's easier than ever now. You can do it on your damn phone. But he doesn't do that. That's not what he does, because he's not actually interested in that. He wants to be famous.
when I talk about I started trading again during COVID, the first thing I did was I opened my laptop and I bought £1 million worth of gold. And gold was collapsing because I knew, this enormous amount of money, £1 trillion, and the US.
Oh, you bought the dip. Clever bloke. I mean, it's just, if you know anything about investing, if gold's collapsing, you buy it. You just buy it. Okay, well done.
This number is, I think, $13 trillion. Once you ask and answer that question, where will the money end up? And it's going to be accumulated by the richest people in society,
Including yourself. You said that many times.
Straight away, gold price will go up, house prices will go up, stock prices will go up, inflation will go up, because that's what these people do. They don't just sit on the money.
This is a broken system for ordinary.
Anyone learn anything from this fella yet?
People. Yeah. This is a broken system. You're going home to Ilford while this is happening. You're seeing people sleeping out in the streets. You're seeing boarded up houses and so on. And there comes a point when there's a kind of...
Look at the way that Gary's almost sitting on his lap. Because it's going so well, because this is helping his fame agenda, this is like a party for Gary. This couldn't be going better for him. Old Marzipan keeps mentioning, when you're in Ilford looking out the window, you cheeky little barra boy, down the East End, up Bethnal Green High Street, up the High Street. He's loving it.
Disgust grows inside you about the system, and you leave and you say, I'm going to start to campaign for a different kind of economy. So,
while making millions, of course, and becoming the enemy that he continually talks about.
What is the essence of the better economy that you have?
Right, so this is key. So this is now Marzipan saying, this might actually be quite cool of Marzipan. He's lulled him into a false sense of security. Stevenson's almost sucking him off at this point. And now Marzipan's saying, so what's the solution? And I haven't seen anything further from this point. I watched a couple of minutes at the beginning. So this could be interesting. He's asking him, what is the solution? Now, Gary's solution, because I've watched plenty of his other content. If you haven't watched my video on him, go and watch it. 2,500 views in a day. It's a good video. It's communism. It's essentially communism. But that's a dirty word. And Gary's clever enough to know that. So he's going to have to try and explain that without saying that, because we know that there's 300 million dead bodies in the wake of communism. We know that when it's been tried in 2/3 of the planet, people have ended up eating their dead relatives. So this will be interesting. Hang on a minute. I'm just checking the other donation sites. I don't want anyone feeling left out. Apart from me not getting any. Right, here we go. Roll on, Gary. Tell us your communism in disguise.
Kind of disgust grows inside you about the system,
Yeah.
and you leave and you say, I'm going to start the campaign for a different kind of economy. So what is the essence of the better economy that
Now, right, let's just take it back. I want you to see his face. Watch that self-soothing, repetitive arm scratching. You know, it's like it's almost like those anorexic girls. They're always scratching their hairy arms. It's self-soothing, because now there's been a twist in the approach from Marzipan at this point. This will be really interesting. Look, I'm going to try and pause it on his face when he realizes he's now got to the difficult bit. He's now got to the bit where, go on then, what's your solution? Because every other video I've watched where it comes to the solution, he fumbles and he mumbles, and it's just a nothing. And he knows he's going to have to go through that bit again. And my guess is they'll try and rush through that and start talking about something else very quickly. That's just my guess.
to start the campaign for a different kind
But I want to get a pause on his face, because it's beautiful. You can see when he realizes he's at that part of the interview again.
of economy. So what is the essence of the better?
Does that look like someone who's comfortable? I mean, it looks like someone who's constipated. That looks like someone in a boozer, and someone opposite him has said, you say something about my missus again, I'm going to bite your fucking throat out. Look at it. That's a scared person. Now, he could be scared because of the economy, but when you've confessed that you'll be making millions out of the failing economy, why would that scare you? Money gives you freedom. Money gives you choices. He can get on an helicopter, private jet, fly anywhere, go to the safest, nicest, most beautiful places on the planet. So there shouldn't be any fear around that. But there's certainly fear around something at this point in the interview. Let's see if we can move that on a little bit and get, all right, well, look at the arm scratching, look, looking away, bollocks, eye blocking, deep breath, right, so there you go. I just wanted to just see that because it's clear as day.
So what is the essence of the better economy that you have as a vision?
I think we cannot.
Before we get into that, Brad James, I bet Gary never mentioned his master's from Oxford. I've never heard of that. Is that real? Is that real, Brad? Don't forget, people, Brad's got a Substack. He puts out loads of content. I bet Gary never mentioned his master's from Oxford. Is that true? He didn't come from the ends of Little Ilford or the Rompham Road. He was probably raised around Valentine's Park. Well, it's funny you should say that, because I will show you some terraced houses. Thanks, Brad, for the donation. Much appreciated, Kanatu. Here, these are the sorts of terrace houses you get in Ilford. All I searched for, you can see it there, Ilford terrace houses. I mean, it's hardly the hood. People I knew grew up in places like this. We thought they were rich. I mean, I lived in a terrace house. You know, I lived in a terrace house, 2-bedroom, 2 up, 2 down. It weren't like fucking Lenzi's Abbey in Abbey Wood or Thamesmead or anything. But if I had a mate who lived in a house like that, they were rich. I can think of the bloke I'm talking about, actually. There was 3 of us, and one of them lived in a house like that. Yeah, ridiculous. And for anyone who says...
I had a mate who did live on the park. In fact, I had a mate who lived on the park down Brisbane Road, whose father owned more than one butcher's shop. and then another mate who lived on the other side down the road called the Drive, and the Drive was very nice in Ilford. That's where the really nice houses were.
Yeah, I mean, there's some lovely places over there. We used to go over there and see a friend of my auntie's. Now, anyone who wants to call me out when I say that I haven't seen any further from here, I just see a few minutes at the beginning and then says, well, how did you know about the Ilford Terraces? I also said at the beginning of the video that I had a quick look through the whole thing just to make sure it was of value. And that's when I see him mention the Ilford houses. So there's that. Let me know you can still... Hello, John. Gary worked in McDee's and shit. Let me know if you can still hear it, because I just changed page. I'll assume you can.
Accept an economy where wealth inequality grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. I want people to understand that when the rich get richer and richer and richer and richer, and in the last 5 years, that's happened at unbelievable speed, that wealth is not coming out of nowhere. So what we've seen in the last 5 years is this unbelievable increase in billionaire wealth. At the same,
have you got any data? Have you got any data that, you know, when you're talking about economics at this level, you can't just say the rich are getting richer, because that's what rich people do, because that's why they're rich, because they invest in assets, as we've been over a few times in this video.
Richer, and in the last 5 years, that's happened at unbelievable speed. That wealth is not coming out of nowhere. So what we've seen in the last 5 years is this unbelievable increase in billionaire wealth.
Unbelievable speed, unbelievable increase, but no numbers, no figures, just adjectives.
At the same time as collapsing government wealth, which is why we're having austerity now, collapsing middle class wealth, which is why people can't afford homes. Those two things are connected.
There's no mention of immigration in any of Gary's videos. No mention of immigration pushing up prices, causing austerity. No, never. It doesn't even get a look in.
We need to fix this tax system, which at the moment taxes ordinary people 30, 40, 50%.
They certainly are, Willow. One every 45 seconds. I made a video on it yesterday. Check it out. There's a millionaire or a billionaire leaving England every 45 seconds. Why? Because they're fixing the tax system. You know, 1% of the 1%, right? The richest 1% of the UK pay, I think it's 30% of the taxes. Now, you're only going to put up with that for so long. You know, Jesus, come on. And then the richest 10%, I think, if I'm right, if I remember, pay 60% of the taxes. So this idea of taxing the rich, yeah, we're doing it. But what's his name? Oh, Mousecat remembers it. Is it Arthur Leffer? Leffer's Law. I think it's Arthur Leffer. Mousecat, can you... Hello, Skin. Nice to see you. Mousecat, can you confirm it's Arthur Leffer? There's a point where the rich are getting taxed, at a point where they just say, nah, I'm going to go and set up in a different country where the weather's better, where we're not being invaded, and I'm not being taxed at these ridiculous numbers. We'll wait for Mousecat to confirm that. And that's it, the Laffer curve. It's an idea come up with by Arthur Laffer. But go and check it out online and you'll see why this idea of super taxing the rich doesn't work. This is what it essentially comes down to. You tell the rich, no, we're going up to 70, 80, 90%. That's happened in the West before, by the way. 90% tax. 90% tax, right? You tell them that, they all just foxtrot Oscar. They're out of there. Of course they are. You know, being an entrepreneur is hard work. It's a 24-hour job. It never goes away. There's always work to do. And you're giving the government 90% of that to put immigrants up in £500 a night hotels in Canary Wharf? What? Yeah, all right. I'm going to carry on with that. And the outcome is that you collect less taxes. So taxing the rich, and this has happened every single time it's been tried. It's like it's fucking bed brother communism. Every time it's been tried, super taxing the rich, they've actually collected less taxes. People leave, People stop declaring their earnings. They just think, I'd rather risk it than pay it. And if I do get caught, I've got enough money to get on a private jet and get the fuck out of here and go to a country that hasn't got an extradition treaty. Tuck that government up with a couple of million, they'll be right. They'll look after you. It's just insane, and that's what he's going to come out with because that's all he ever says. So let's hear this great solution, which in another name is called communism.
And sees billionaires inheriting tens of billions and paying nothing.
And yet we're just hearing this weekend from the government that they can't go for a wealth tax, as Neil Kinnock, for instance, has suggested, because it hasn't worked anywhere. It's been tried in lots of countries. It's never really worked. Therefore, guys, it's off the table.
It's never worked. Now, is Marzipan here suggesting, but it might this time? Who else says that? Maybe it wasn't real taxing the rich. Maybe it wasn't, they didn't really do it. You know, that sounds familiar.
What do you say?
If you don't do something about this massive increase in billionaire wealth, which is squeezing wealth out of the rest of society, you have to accept that the middle class will disappear. You have to accept enormous increases in poverty. You have to accept the end of the welfare state. I don't want to accept those things. And
I do. I do want to accept the end of the welfare state because that will sort out one of our biggest problems that you've got no balls, and that's why you won't mention it, in about a week. If you tell people that if they come here, they ain't getting anything for free, I don't think you're going to see so many of them. And I think a lot of them already here may leave. And when you've got less people coming to a country and not contributing, getting handouts, do you know what happens? You need less money. You need less taxes. That might be a solution. I mean, I'm only suggesting it, but that would seem to make sense to me. But he doesn't want that. He doesn't want that because that doesn't make you famous in today's society. That makes you far right. That gets you cancelled. If he was to start saying things like that, he wouldn't be on anything. He'd disappear in a matter of days.
I would speak to the government and I would say, listen, you have to be bigger in your ambitions.
So how do you get that money back? In practical terms, what would you do if you were rich?
Great question. So go on, tell us how to do it.
Well, look,
he won't.
If we look at history, there's only really one case we have where wealth inequality significantly decreased, where wealth was transferred from the elites back to ordinary people.
And and I know what he's going to say. It'll be something like after the war.
That was the 20th century. That was the aftermath of World War II.
So damn predictable. What are you suggesting? Should we just let's just go and jump into Ukraine? Let's make that happen. And you know, why not? Because if that's the only example you can give of a communist style redistribution of wealth, you could have said anything. And the only example you can give is the old after the war. Oh, come on. Is this really, is this the working class hero we've got? Is this the level of working class heroes we've got? And I'll tell you the answer, yes, because they've been artificially elevated, which is why he's on the same page as Gabriel Cruz on Amazon, because it's the same blag. It's the same propaganda.
What we saw then was a massive transfer of wealth away from the elites towards the government, towards the middle class.
That was high levels of income tax.
Well, really, what it was the war. To be honest, it was the war. It was the war led.
We don't want that.
Yeah, we don't want that again. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly, and that is. I'm not calling for a war because I don't want there to be a war.
Imagine having to need to say that. I'm not calling for a war. No, I should fucking hope not. But you are calling for communism, and if we look at history, communism has pretty much been a war everywhere it's happened. So you are, in fact, calling for a war of a sort.
I want is a fairer taxation system. I want to reduce tax on working people and I want to increase tax on billionaires.
Yeah, but it's been proven not to work every goddamn time. People stop declaring, people leave.
Do you think it is possible without sort of the flight of the rich and all the things that we're told about?
Who are already leaving at 1 every 45 seconds from England, that is, people. A millionaire or a billionaire is leaving the UK 1 every 45 seconds. Watch my video I made on it yesterday. And when they leave, they don't only take their income tax, but they take their corporation tax. Not only do they take their income tax and their corporation tax, but they usually take their businesses, which means their staff in England or the UK have no longer got jobs. So they're not paying taxes either. So you lose the business corporation tax, you lose the income tax of the owner, you lose all the taxes of the people working for them, and they all lose their jobs. And it's happened like that every single time. And this so-called genius economist is suggesting we do that. The same genius economist whose one example of a successful distribution of wealth was after a war. This is insanity. This is what happens when you artificially elevate people who don't know what the fuck they're going on about. I'm not saying he's not a good economist. I'm not saying he doesn't know how to make money, but his agenda is to be famous. And so he's just playing a very simple game. Let's not overcomplicate things, because those stupid lumpen proletariat won't understand what I'm saying. Let's just make out that if we take money off of rich people and give it to poor people, everything will be all right, despite every single piece of evidence points to the contrary happening. Idiot.
To actually, as it were, take asset value, asset wealth back from the super rich, back to the rest of us?
I think it is possible. Yeah, I want to be really clear, right? When I say this, tax the rich, tax the super rich, people often think I'm talking about lawyers, bankers,
No, most of them, if they got half a brain, no, you're talking about communism.
heaven forbid, even YouTubers and radio presenters. I'm talking about millionaires and billionaires here. I'm talking about individuals and families hoarding enormous amounts of wealth.
What, the 1% who pay like 30% of the taxes, or the 10% who pay 60% of the taxes? They're the people you're going to tax more. Yeah, they'll sit and take it.
The thing is, if we were to tax radio presenters, you could go and do this show from Dubai. Mm-hmm. But if I'm going to tax a billionaire, billionaires don't get their money from their work. They get their money from their assets, and their assets are here. Look what happened when the government suddenly decided it wanted to tax Roman Abramovich's assets. Roman Abramovich is on the first plane to Moscow. What does he own? Chelsea Football Club. Mm. These people are taxable because their assets are here. And I never said it would be easy. It won't be.
Yeah, sure. But when you start taxing their assets, they sell them. Like that geezer who sold his £250 million property a few days ago because it's just not worth him having it. Because it's going to, when he wants to leave that to his family, it's going to get taxed out of all proportion, inheritance tax. So he's selling it now and he's fucking off.
Easy. If you do not tax them, I guarantee you poverty will continue to explode in this country. And I'm not just saying that, I'm betting on it. And
no more numbers, just continue to explode. Right, this is the interesting bit then. He's not just saying it, he's betting on it. Sweet. So there's money to be made here. So working people can make money out of this. So where's the video? Where's the fucking video telling us how? I'm up for it. I'll scrape some money together. I'll do what it takes. I'll go and get a job in a fucking restaurant in Phnom Penh to get some funds together. If you show me how I can make them multiply betting on the UK economy failing.
I guarantee you poverty will continue to explode in this country. And I'm not just saying that, I'm betting on it. And I bet on it year after year, and I've made millions of pounds betting on it. And I don't want to be right this time.
Well, just tell us how to do it. But you've just stopped. You decided against telling us all how to do it. Is that because it would mean you can't do it? And that's rhetorical. That's not rhetorical. I'm actually asking. I mean, if all working people bet on the economy failing, it probably wouldn't have the same effect. Maybe that's why he isn't telling us. Maybe he's looking after his own arse.
Absolutely. Let's just think a little bit about the plight of this government right now.
I can't believe how quickly they've just sort of smoothed over the fact that what he's suggesting has never worked. Oh, that's all right. And then at the end of that segment, he just repeated it again. Yeah, just tax the rich. And I'm betting on the economy collapsing, which is what he said at the beginning. Okay, well, nothing's been said. Nothing's been learnt. Great stuff. LC350 drops a lady in. Hello, Chris. I'm going shopping at your store over the weekend. I'll email you. Yeah, do that, mate. Of course, I'll sort you out. Nice one. Brad James drops another lady in. He says, is a man's wealth ability to attract women known as the slapped curve? You don't get to talk about women, Bradley. Although I'll tell you what, when I was the only straight in the village living in Soho, there was nothing like the gays to give me tips on how to present myself better, and there were plenty more women at the end of it. So maybe you do. You know, it's up to you. You can. Thank you, Bradley. It's a good call. Anyway, let me just check the other two. Sometimes Buy Me a Coffee is a bit slow, so apologies if you have donated there and I haven't recognised it. Thanks for all the super chats, people. Much appreciated. We haven't got long left here. I think Packer might even make it to the end. What have you got, Packer? 25 minutes left?
15.
All right, let's roll VT.
Because, they're looking at the need for more cut.
Thank you, Bradley, by the way. You've been very generous on this stream. And as you always are, actually. Frequently are, I think it's fair to say.
Cuts in welfare, squeezing the welfare budget, because the bond markets are looking at them and saying, you've lost control of the fiscal situation, therefore we're going to punish you, we're going to push interest rates up, and then you're scuppered.
Sorry, I can't ignore that. He's now talking about fiscal situations. He's talking about details. Marzipan is now getting into details. Look how uncomfortable Gary Stevenson gets when he talks about details. You can't deny that. What has he suddenly found a fucking cockroach on his seat or something? Look at him. Watch. As soon as Marzipan starts talking actual details, he's like, oh, fucking hell. Oh, what am I going to do here? And I'll tell you what I'll do. And just trust me, I haven't seen any more of this. He will just bang the same drum that he's just banged. I'll put my channel on it. In a way, he will repeat what he's already said and almost certainly ignore what Marzipan has said. It'll make it look like he's addressing it, but that's easy to do. You just use some of the same words. But look at his body language. Look at him jumping around like a cat on an hot tin roof.
The welfare budget, because the bond markets are looking at them and saying, you've lost control of the fiscal situation, therefore we're going to punish you, we're going to push interest rates up, and then you're scuppered.
Yeah. I think this is what happens when you have a naivety towards wealth. I talk about this £1 trillion. This £1 trillion didn't come from nowhere. That £1 trillion is on the government debt now.
Oh, something you said 5 minutes ago. Sweet, thanks. But did you answer his question?
There's a really interesting graph. The French economist Thomas Piketty. So for those who don't know, this is a French economist, does a lot of work on wealth inequality. He made these graphs.
I wonder if this is going to end up talking about taxing the rich.
Looking at how much wealth the government owns. And back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the government of this country had a lot of wealth. It owned schools, it owned hospitals, and that meant it could provide public services.
So what you're saying is expand the state. So state-owned schools, state-owned hospitals. That sounds good. That sounds like something. There's a political theory that suggests that the state should own everything. I don't know how well it's gone down historically, but you're getting very close to the edge there, young Gareth.
That collapsed during the 90s and 2000s, and then during COVID, massively collapsed negative. Where has that wealth gone now? There is a phenomenal naivety about wealth in the economic conversation now.
It was privatized, right? So, and you know that. But for you to go down there, you're going to have to start debating the difference between state-owned and privatization. And you don't want to do that because it doesn't help make you famous. It helps make you a communist.
If you do not get that wealth back, you have no choice but to shut the welfare state down, which is why I was screaming at government before.
Shut it down, privatise the NHS. The NHS is an endless pit. It's a void. You just throw money into it. You people watching this pay endless taxes. I pay so much tax to the UK. Well, not anymore, I don't, because I don't earn enough. But over the years, I've put so much money that goes to the NHS. Anyone, listen to this, people, anyone can just come to our country, go to A&E, go to hospital, get treated, go to a dentist on the money we've paid in. and I said this on the video I made yesterday, if you think you're going to get your pension when you're however old it is, you might get it. It'll be about £100 a month. That money won't exist. And there's a reason for that. Because when you haven't got borders, when you've got a limited amount of money chipping, you've got a limited amount of people contributing to the system, but an unlimited amount of people taking from the system, a 6-year-old can work that out. Here's how a 6-year-old works it out. You say to them, what's 4 minus 5? Yeah, easy.
For the election, I was screaming at the Labour Party because we knew they were coming in. Listen, you need to do.
There's no welfare system in Cambodia. None. Nothing. And it's 98% ethnic Khmer people. It's an ethno-state. People don't complain about it. You know what they do? They get off their asses and generate wealth. That's what they do because they have to. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If Cambodia started a welfare system where all the people started to get taxed so that the government had money to give to people, all the people from all the poor countries around this part of Southeast Asia would just flood this country. So would Africans, so would Middle Easterns, because it's free money. It obviously doesn't work. This is ridiculous. And it drives me mad that, again, the artificial elevation of this nonsense.
Do something about taxation. You need to do something about wealth. They were
What though?
Naive to that. They've walked into the situation. They've got no wealth. They're bankrupt. The rich are super rich. They are unwilling to tax them. And now they're left with basically...
Unwilling to tax them, 1% pay 30% of the taxes, 10% pay 60s. What do you mean they're unwilling to tax them? It's just an out-and-out lie.
No choice but to shut the welfare state down. Listen.
Good. Let's hope it happens.
This is what happens if you are naive about wealth. Wealth is hemorrhaging from government, from the middle class to the rich. If you do not stop that flow of wealth, you have no choice but to shut down the welfare state that our
There's other issues here, though, isn't there? Immigration, have you ever mentioned it? No.
Parents and great-grandparents fought and died for.
So what?
They fought. Your great-grandparents and your grandparents fought for what England is now, did they? I think there's a certain significant element of what's happening in the country that people would put much higher than the redistribution of wealth at the moment. But you don't go there. You don't mention that because you want to be famous. And it's bad optics for people who want to be famous. It gets you shut down. It gets you cancelled. It gets you called a Nazi. It gets the newspapers of record say you're grooming teenage Nazis. Is ridiculous.
You want, in the end, is a political class with a bit of the testosterone, a bit of the cojones, a bit of the aggression that you saw on the trading floor.
Why are they talking like this now? It's just crumbled into a couple of drunk blokes in a boozer saving the world on acid.
A bit of ambition. Yeah. I want to see, when I was working as a trader in Japan, I was complaining.
Have you had any solutions from this geezer yet, apart from taxing the rich?
About the traders around me, and my junior said, the problem with these traders is they are men with small hearts. And I think that was translated directly from Japanese, but I see too much of that in politics.
What, as opposed to indirectly from the Japanese? I mean, what does that even mean? and you might think I'm being just a little bit picky, but you will see, like, that on its own doesn't mean much, okay. But he's also come out with a few more of these little seemingly meaningless sort of independent clauses, right? But when you see him as a cluster, he's a bullshitter. I think that was directly translated from the Japanese. What are the options? Indirectly? What is it, a free kick?
I want to see ambition. Listen, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, they were born in poverty. 3 of my grandma's siblings died of tuberculosis, a disease of poverty, and they fought for a fairer system, for a better distribution. And that is why me and my parents grew up with a welfare state, housing, education, healthcare, food. They fought for it, and they came from a worse position than us. They knew the importance of distribution and a fair share of the pie. We need to change the tax system, tax working people less, tax the super rich more, tax wealth not work.
And there you go. He summed up, he ended with what he says on every single show you'll see him on. Let's tax the rich. It's never worked before. Let's do it again. That's it. That's his shtick. That's his one line. Packer, you got to go, bruv.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed sitting through that bloody idiot again. Thanks.
Well, I hope I made it. I hope I made it bearable by calling him out.
Yeah, I've got to go. I've got an Indian. It's a wedding anniversary.
Yeah, we got the receipts. We got the recipes. I mean, do you remember when Hugh on the offensive Three Stooges? He went, "We've got the bloody recipes. Fuck's sake!" All right, I'll let you go, people. Can you give Packer some love in the chat? Enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Is it Friday? Yes, it is, which means tomorrow's Saturday. I love it. Oh, I was editing my new novel this morning, and like my 800-page novel, did I edit it or did I add another 6,000 words to it? You know the answer. I've got to not do this and end up with another 600-page novel in 8 years. Packer, enjoy your weekend. Send my regards to your missus and your little one, and you have a good time. Ta-da, mate. Ta-da.
Cheers, Scrubs. Ta-da.
Show Packer some love in the chat, people. Just a P or whatever you want. Don't have a P. Don't have a P. I'll tell you what, doing the streams these days without Packer, which thankfully and mercifully is very rare, it's just not the same. And it might be hard for you to understand that, because like in today's stream he said 30-40 words, but if I dry up, if I sort of if I just have like a brain melt, I can just say to Packer, I can call it. That's what comics do. We talked about it the other day. If you're a comedian and a light falls down or someone in the audience farts, if you don't call it, it just festers in the room. And so I'll just occasionally say to Packer, I can't remember what I was talking about then. And he'll say, no, I can't either. But that's all right. But then it's been called, and then we can move on to the next thing. People, if you didn't see my debate with Tim Davis, check it out. It's worth a watch. If you didn't see my other video on Gary Stevenson, check that out. It's really blown up for my channel. Those last two videos have got 2,300 views in a day each. It's unheard of around here. Thank you to all the new members. We've had some new members join in. Thank you to the people who came into the members Discord voice meetings. Had another couple this week. Great. They're great. Make sure you've got, if you're a member, make sure you've got notifications on your phone, so that when I put the link into the channel posts, you see it, because then you can come in and you just sit there and it's just like sitting in a cafe having a chat. It's not me just rambling and you listening. It's a conversation, and I will be doing more of them, because it's been a long time. We've had a lot of members and we're getting more members, and I know it's been a sort of a joke that there's no perks apart from the emojis, but I actually wanted to do something about that, and so I have. So I'm going to try and up that. I'm going to try and do three or four a week, and if more people come to them, I'll do more than that. John Palmer's been on the firm for 46 months. No, he hasn't. He's been on the firm for a lot longer than that. He spent all his money one weekend on too many birds, and had to trim some fat off his spending. If anyone has donated via Buy Me a Coffee, it's not showing, but it sometimes, like I said, it sometimes comes up late, and you'll get your video reply later. All right, people. Oh no, done that one. Where are we? Done that one. Good Lord, I'm so far behind. It's a photo of my old man, but I haven't got a lot of photos of my old man. It was the size of a passport photo. My missus took it to a shop, had it blown up, had them Photoshop a suit onto it, and she'd give it and got a frame on it and put it on the wall. That's my old man. Yeah, that's who it is. Did you like that, JP? I was hoping you were still here. Right, I'm off ski because my missus needs to get some sleep, and it's gone 1 a.m, and I've got to do some writing. I've got to do some editing. This novel has got to get out. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go there. Oh, hang on. Sorry, people. Please excuse the... I mean, why not? Why not go this Why not go in this direction? It always works, never fails. All right, listen, I want to thank Packer. Nice one, Packer. I want to thank everyone who donated. Machano Kaprasha Tuto. But most of all, as usual, I want to thank people who come to these streams, keep them alive, engage in the chat, watch the videos, share the videos. Do us a favor, people. Tell your friends about this channel. Tell people that they might like it. You know, they might enjoy it, because YouTube gives me no help. It's a bit of a thing between me and horror. So I've been on 19,400 subscribers for 7 years. And like, I even get, YouTube even says to me like, oh, 38 new subscribers this month. But then mysteriously they disappear. When I talk to YouTube and say, but where did they go? And they say, well, we clean up occasionally because there's a lot of bots in people's subscribers. But why is the number of bots always equal to the amount of new subscribers I got that month? That's consistency though, Chris. Yeah, fair enough it is. Listen, all of you, have a lovely weekend. I might stream tomorrow night, but I've really got to spend some time with my missus. And I've got to get this book finished. This new book is going to be in the shops by November. You don't need to buy anyone any Christmas presents. You can just order 5 of my novels. I tell you, it's excellent. It is excellent. If I've ever made you laugh, if I've ever made you cry, if I've ever made you think, imagine spending 8 weeks crafting a novel of a 14-year-old in 1986. It's packed with really good humor. It's packed with really touching moments. It's packed with nostalgia. It's packed with stuff from school in 1986, and it's autobiographical, so you'll get to know a little bit about my childhood. It's a cracking book. I'll bet my channel on it. If everyone who buys it, I'll do a poll. Like a few months after it's been on sale, and if more people dislike it than like it, I'll close my channel down, because it's excellent. It's really entertaining, and I know that because the way I respond to it. You know, when you go back to something you wrote 8 weeks ago and you think, this is fucking great. And there you go. I think you'll really enjoy it, people. It's not one of my sort of postmodern ones with no commas or speech marks. It's an easy read. You'll do it in a day or an afternoon if you're a fast reader. Anyway, enjoy your weekend, people. Lots of love. Bless you all. And don't forget to tell the people you love that you love them, because it's important and they need to hear it. And we often forget. I'm trying to time this right, but I never do it. Anyway, here's this. Ta-da! Wow, that's different, JP.
All the world loves a lover. All the girls.
Nice one, Kim.
In every land, a man to know. The joy of loving is to live in the world of man. There's someone who's waiting for you. Soon the world will be yours for a time.
Not really, just 14-year-olds liking a bit of sexy women.
When the one you love is near, you're in man. All the world loves the lover, all the girls. In every land of man to know. Joy of loving is
No,
to live
it's similar, but it's a
in
bit
the world
heavier.
of mankind. There's a place that is waiting for you, a world where the best in life is free, where time is always spring, happiness is king. The dreams you dream come true when the one you love loves you. You're in mankind.
Seriously, people, I trust it. You'll really enjoy it. A couple of scrubs of Peter reading it for me, so you'll get a report back from them. And I have absolute faith in it. Anyway, look after presents for the weekend. Bless you all. Where's that email, David?
All the world loves a lover. All the girls in every land of man to know. Joy of loving
Machano Kuprasha
is to
TT,
live
Zeitgeist.
in the world of mankind.
John's going down the shops. You all right, Dottie? It's always a pleasure, my love. John's going down the shops if anyone needs anything. It's an amazing comment, and it's sort of like anti-meta. I'm just making sure I haven't missed it. I have glass. You didn't get mentioned in the description because it was an actual video. How did you feel about that? I do apologise. I'll make up for it now. Lady Glass have dropped. She says, been working and lurking. Great reaction stream. Happy weekend. Thank you, Emma. You have a cracking weekend as well, love. And that is us done. Hideyoshi wants 20 Lambert and Butler. Do us 20 L&B, son. The Lambert and Butler. I remember I had a mate who refused to smoke joints if they were made of L&Bs. That ain't a joint. That's a grandmother's snout. That's what he used to say. And on that ridiculous note, hoita!